Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start there. I, I was just astounded the other day when COVAX said they were going to buy the Chinese vaccine. I assume you saw that release. Have you discussed that with the other people at COVAX?
Yes, Senator.
Do they appreciate the irony of this, where China started this and refused to participate in COVAX, and won't contribute money, won't contribute vaccines, but then COVAX is turning around and actually paying them for their vaccines. I mean, this is odd. It's strange, to say the least.
If I may just make a couple points here. First of all, it is appalling that Beijing chose to make a profit on those vaccines rather than to contribute financially to COVAX or to donate its state-owned doses to COVAX to reach people in their hour of desperate need. There's no other way around it. It's appalling. From the standpoint of COVAX and why that transaction went forward, it is the case, as you know, Senator, that the supply for this third quarter of this year is not available, fundamentally. And the Delta variant is raging because, as I indicated earlier, India pulled back the Serum Institute of India doses that COVAX had expected to provide, for example, second shots and to reach health workers. Hundreds of millions of doses that COVAX had expected to be able to distribute never arrived. The U.S., as you know, through Pfizer, is moving to address the supply issue, but that won't really kick in until August and then into the later part of this year, and even that will only scratch the surface in terms of the global need. So I think what you're looking at is a raging pandemic, a supply challenge that the U.S. and Europe will be addressing, and you'll see other pharmaceutical companies also have their drugs probably licensed toward the end of this year. But in that hour of relative desperation, it felt it needed to bring vaccines online as quickly as possible, particularly, again, to get those second shots and those healthcare workers reached. That's no excuse for what China did in that context.
I appreciate that. From your position at COVAX, what are you finding as far as the other countries' acceptance of the Chinese vaccine? I mean, here in the U.S., we see even slight ineffectiveness is greeted with real disdain. And as we read what's going on with the Chinese vaccine, it seems to be pretty low quality compared to what we're producing. What's happening there? What are the countries saying about getting the Chinese vaccine?
Well, as you know, different studies have yielded different research findings as it relates to a number of the vaccines on the global market, including the two Chinese vaccines in question. It was licensed, to be used, and again, because it's not a question of COVAX choosing between Sinovac or Sinopharm and Moderna. I think it's obvious what the choice would be if that were the choice. It's choosing one of these Chinese vaccines or not having supply in this period. And so I think, and just to come back to the chairman's point, across our hemisphere and around the world, people's very strong preference appears to be for U.S. manufactured vaccines, particularly mRNA vaccines like Moderna and Pfizer. And so once that supply becomes available, I think it's going to be a very clear choice. Let me leave it at that. Oh, actually, let me just say one more thing, if I could, sorry, which is to the branding point about COVAX, because I think this is implicit in what you're saying, and the chairman raised it. When COVAX doses are donated because of the generosity of the American taxpayer and because of the generosity of the U.S. government, those are branded with the American flag. Those are not branded just simply as COVAX, as an international organization. Our ambassadors are there to meet the planes when they land. We are very aware of what China is using its vaccines and people's desperation to extract And we are also intent on, we don't ask for anything in return, unlike our Chinese counterparts, but we are intent certainly on making it known when it is our vaccines that are arriving of the higher quality that we know them to be.
Well, thank you, Ms. Powell. My time is up. I'm not going to ask another question, but I just wanted, one area I wanted to go into, and I will just underscore for you that payments, assistance to the Palestinians are going to be very closely scrutinized by some of us here. I know there's people in the House of Representatives that has a different view of this than we do, but as long as they have the pay for slave program, we're going to look at every penny that's spent with the Palestinians. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.